Welcome to the Inside Track on Real Estate with the Dekker Team. I'm Yetta Dekker, and today I'm here with Elizabeth Howard. Hello, Elizabeth.
Good morning, Yetta.
Good morning. And today we're going to do something a little bit interesting or unique. We've never talked about this on the Inside Track before. And the reason we have the privilege of doing it is on a previous show, I asked, I'm not sure if it was Ken or I, but I'll take credit for it. I asked if anybody had a recommendation of what we maybe hadn't covered, a show they hadn't heard, and something they might have some expertise in. And I got a phone call, the Dekker team did, at the office. Again, I wasn't answering the phone, except I'll make it sound like it was all me, okay? Elizabeth called and had a conversation with one of our amazing team members and decided that her topic would be something that would be interesting not only to homeowners, potentially, those that already own a home, potentially to those that don't own a home. Bet you're wondering, what on earth are you going to be talking about? Well, I want to hold that suspense for a minute. Can't do it too long because then I'd just be filling the air with not much. So we're going to talk about house sitting. House sitting, why would you hire one? And why would you be one? What are the types? What are the opportunities out there? What is house sitting as a whole? And there are lots of different types. So I figured, since Elizabeth has been a house sitter for 10 years. Is that right?
That's right.
She has more expertise than I could ever muster. So how on earth, Elizabeth, did you get involved in house sitting and made it really a lifestyle, right?
I was actually filling a vacancy at a church, parsonage, rectory, manse, and had some guests one day, and they said, you know what you're doing? You're really house sitting. And I didn't click, but they went home and they began to look up on websites for house sitting things. They could see there was eventually going to be an end of this.
For you to be living in the parsonage?
Yes.
Right.
Because the church was looking for a permanent. And they called me back and they said, hey, there's a website. So I don't know if we want to talk about websites.
Yeah, a little bit. We want to make sure that people know that websites, which is probably expected today, is a way that we can find just about anything. We can find truth and we can even find untruth on the websites. However, in this particular case, the website could be used to locate a house sitter or to locate how to promote yourself if you want to be a house sitter.
Either one.
Right.
And it's the one that they found was called housecares.com.
Housecares.com. And it's still in existence today, although that was in 2006, wasn't it?
Yes.
Okay.
2000, yeah. 6, 7.
Yeah.
And so it's based in Australia. They got 400 house sitters listed. You can decide to specialize in certain areas, or you could put yourself on for this week, this month, because you want to go to a place. That was why they invented it. So that an Australian, having paid all of that airfare to get up to wherever they got to, wouldn't have to also pay hotels and go home in no time. If they house sat for free and looked after a property for somebody, they might be able to stay for a month or weeks longer than that. So they invented this website, but anybody can use it. And you can read all the listings around the world. They have 400 right now, people. Or you can just look. I listed for, my sister listed me. I said, would you look up this website for me? And she called back and said, you're listed. I said, I am? Tell me about it. And I said, Eastern Ontario or Western Quebec, because I got kind of family in that stream and I thought I should be there. And so every time one of those came up, the machine, speaking of the website, would go beep, and that just told me it was there. I could read about anywhere. I mean, house sitting has taken me to Trinidad and Connecticut and down the other side, well, like Oakville and St. Agatha, the other side of Lake Ontario there. So you can go as far as you wish, respond to anything that you want to respond to and ignore the rest. And it's an interesting lifestyle if it's something you want to try a little more long than a week or a month.
Right. So originally when you did it, it was really just at your sister's encouragement and your friend's encouragement. And then you decided at some point that you liked it as a lifestyle.
It's worked out conveniently for me. I guess I did decide that.
Yeah, you must have, because you're still doing it 10 years later.
Well, I told you, I tried at one point to stop and found a place, and I lasted 3 days. I had just enough time to hang my pictures, place my furniture, and the phone rang. And I had written to everybody and said, I'm out of this business. I'm not doing this anymore. And my sister said, well, you see, there's this lady, and she's got this big problem, and she really needs this house sitter today. And her house is on the market, and somebody has to show it. The pool cleaners need supervision. The cleaning, couldn't you please? So I left my place after 3 days. And a year later, I said, you know, this is ridiculous. There's no use having a place if you're never in it.
Exactly. So
I guess I'm a house sitter, yes.
Yeah, I'm thinking. And so that's one type of house sitter.
Yes, and for that one, it cost $50, and it was good for 3 years. Okay. For the first year and a half, that was where I found some house sits. But after that, I didn't. And so I didn't renew at the end of 3 years.
Okay. So you're not on there anymore?
No.
Okay. And so how do you find your house sitting positions now?
Referral.
Okay.
And that's a good way to find a house sitter. If you know anybody that's had them or used them, that works. But you can also look in the classifieds. There are people, Yellow Pages, there are people. You do want to know they have some experience, but on the website, of course, you know, you send them a list of how many. You got cats? Oh, I've done 6 cats' houses here. You know, I'll give you my references. Or dogs, I'll send you some information. How many do you want covered? So you want to know they have a background,
right? Except at the beginning, you did.
You,
right? Right.
They still had the opportunity. My sister decided what she was going to write about me when she had me joined. So she typed in, retired nurse, looking for a place to settle. We just sold the family property. And so that sort of gave credibility. One of the ones I met in Oakville, I said to her, you know, what do you do? She said she's a school crossing guard. So she only has to be there in the morning, noon, and night. Everybody knows her. She's considered responsible, and so they were willing to hire her as their house sitter to go around and feed their pets, bring in their mail. But she doesn't stay. That's one kind too. The people that drop in for half an hour a day usually cost $20 a visit.
Depending on who you're hiring, but that seems to be the going rate is what you've
and you
experienced.
Negotiate with your people, whatever you want to negotiate.
Right.
Those who, because on that website you can't pay.
Okay.
They deal on that website is they give their property at no cost to you, and you give your time at no cost to them. But I'll tell you, when I go on major flights, they pay the airfare and travel insurance and any of those kinds of costs, even in those days when I was on that website. So.
Okay, perfect. So a house sitter is somebody, from what I've learned over the last months, is somebody that will go into your home when you are not able to be there and actually take care of it, either in the context of just a half an hour a day to maybe water the plants, feed the cats, take the dog for a walk. I guess in that case, you might want somebody to come a couple of times if you had dogs left in the house. And so you could have somebody that you're hiring for pop-in visits, right? Which is probably easier to do if the house is quasi-vacant, not full of animals, if it's just a visit a day.
That's true. Sometimes they don't have pets.
Right. And so if there's no animals, then it's more just for insurance purposes to make sure things are well cared for and maintained, and that
there's no broken windows, flooded basement, smell of gas, etc.
Exactly. And no dead plants because we don't want them to die, and that the furnace hasn't stopped working because that's not fun either, right? And then there's a house sitter that actually will come there for a period of time, like a longer period of time every day, and do more of the maintenance type things around the house.
Well, ordinarily, the second category is the people you want 24 hours. You just ask them to move in, for that 3 months while you're gone and be there. So the lights are on at different hours, the curtains are open, the place looks, there's marks of tracks in the driveway, footprints, it looks occupied.
Right.
And the going rate for that is usually $50 a day.
Okay, or in that neighborhood.
You know, whatever you negotiate, every town and every whatever, it depends what you can find.
Right. That seems to be what you've heard, though.
Yes.
Because of course you've got to guess that as Elizabeth is involved in house sitting and has been professionally really for 10 years now, she doesn't even keep a home. So she literally goes from one home to another. And so she always has a roof over her head. Sometimes more than one wants her at the same time. So that's a little bit interesting dynamic. You need to leave someplace a little bit early so you can get to your next posting. Kind of a cool lifestyle. So that's one category, and there's generally no cost to that except airfare and or transportation cost and that kind of things to get you there if it's not in your local area.
That's because I'm not using it. I'm a pensioner, so I don't have to use it that way.
Right.
Now there are people that's very important in covering their rent costs or very important in covering their life.
Right.
So I can afford my cell phone, but can they? So that's why and also I got trained, in that habit by joining that website first where it was not permitted to charge. And then I got to feel guilty if I ever had to charge for anything, which is ridiculous, but I did. I was trained.
Right.
So different people have different into this and what they do it for.
Right. And so you could choose to do it like Elizabeth does for a lifestyle, really.
I get to see family and places. And
yeah, and all kinds of amazing adventures and not have the expense of a roof over your head, right?
At the same time.
At the same time, exactly.
When you're not there.
Right, exactly. And then somebody that pops in for a visit every day, which ballpark, we're saying Elizabeth's experience has been around $20, and or somebody that moves in for a week, a month, 6 months, it could be different periods of time, for approximately $50 a day, which would allow them to really live in your house as though it's their home, correct?
And have it clean for when you return.
Ah.
And, it's not that they are the cleaners. Usually if people have cleaners, they continue in their absence. But And they're trying to maintain a house, so they don't want to give up certain things that make their system work.
Right.
So in those houses, cleaning is not a big deal. In other houses, you do want them to come back to as nice a place as they left for you.
Right.
They don't want to come back to 3 months of dust, and you don't want them to either. So there's a mutual benefit.
Well, that's awesome. And as somebody that is choosing to hire somebody to house sit, you've said that they can expect, what I've heard you say, Elizabeth, they can expect to come home to something that's as nice as when they left, right? And during the process, you've kind of talked about plants and animals. What are some of those other things that people can expect from a house sitter?
Well, I'm thinking of things like mail, if you need things forwarded or stacked. I'm thinking of updates, if that alarm system did go off, if that smell of gas happened and Enbridge has been in and fixed it now, you may get an update if you want. Now, if you don't leave any contact information, it'll just be on a list waiting for you when you get home.
Right.
Guess what happened that day and that day and that day, along with any light bulbs you could not find to replace. Sometimes you can find them and you do replace them at the store or wherever you can find them. Other times you'll find out which ones are now out. Tips like that. Which clock you couldn't forward when it was time to change the clocks. You should be able to expect somebody who will arrive at the time they said they'd arrive and be dependable.
Perfect. And show up and be as careful about your home as you would be, really, I think is what I'm hearing you say.
Yeah, the garbage is out. It doesn't smell like pets.
Right.
There's certain advantages that would not be there if no one was looking after your house. And sometimes that's showing a house that you're trying to sell, a house you're trying to rent. Sometimes that's I've actually cut down dead trees when spring thaw came because they couldn't cut it down in the ice and snow. and the new owners were about to arrive. So they didn't want them to see that, have that. So, I mean, I filled day after day of garbage and laid them out on the edge of the road so that the place will look nice for the new owners.
Right.
So it varies.
Okay, perfect. If you're just joining us now on the Inside Track on Real Estate with the Dekker Team, we are talking about house sitting and having someone in your home when you are away. The reasons for it could be going on vacation, right?
Covering for a family illness.
I bet that's probably one of your big ones.
Their house is empty, and the family's busy and they're in a fret. Who's going to look after their own house in this other town, their family member's house, and go visit the family member? And, they just can't do it all. A house sitter can be a nice transfer of responsibility.
So a transfer of responsibility, now doesn't that sound like something that's kind of fun?
And the neighbors are fun because some people just go away for 3 months and say, it's okay, neighbor, you look after it. And when I arrive, they say, welcome, we're so glad you're here. So they consider make these people good neighbors.
Right, so a house sitter can be a great neighbor, way better than a vacant house, because even things like shoveling a walkway in the winter.
Well, and again, you have to negotiate these things because different people have different expectations. Like some people have said, you have to feed the deer. And some people have said, you have to keep the cats warm with this fireplace 24/7. And I have to think about, are those things I will do? I mean, there was one place that wanted that driveway, that they had a driveway plower person, that if you don't stop having snow plow removal people come, don't be ridiculous. They wanted that little pathway, very simple request, to the front door to be clean. And we did a 3-week trial first, because that's the first time they had to be away, was for 3 weeks. And bless God, we got snow in October, November. And I went out and I cleared that. That was the only most thing I had to do. I took out a broom. It wasn't much snow. It was just October, November. And every hour I could have done it again. And I said, because then they wanted me for 3 months in the winter. And I said, no, I cannot clean that driveway every hour. I'm sorry. It's not driveway. It felt like that. It's a long pathway, a long staircase. Anyway, so you learn. And so when they came back, it was lovely, thank you. I didn't mind giving your pet insulin at 7 a.m. and insulin at 7 p.m. And I didn't mind chasing for them when it was bedtime and they had to come in. But your pathway has done me in. Thank you. You can find somebody else for the 3 months. So I'm sorry, I've been at this long enough. I'm getting snarky sometimes, but I have to take care of me too.
Right. And so I think that's a really important point that Elizabeth brings up. If you're going to hire a house sitter or you're going to be one, set clear expectations on the front end. Understand that there is as many requests or variety of requests as there are people on earth, because we are so unique in what we're looking for, what we want, and even in what we're willing to offer. So on both sides of the fence, you've got two very unique individuals with very different ideals likely and expectations. So having a clear written itemized list, I would think, is really helpful, and then having a conversation to sort of follow up with that.
Yeah, you want to audition on both sides.
Yes.
And it doesn't matter one way or the other, but I'll tell you, when somebody finds a good house sitter, it's like finding a good hairdresser. That it tends that they want to have you back because they don't have to go through that. Now you know where in the house you'll look for this. Now you know where in the neighborhood you'll find that. Now, seniors are supposed to do things to keep their brains alert. I'll tell you, house sitting works. You are always looking for, where do you buy milk? Where's the local church? You're always busy if you're a house sitter, searching like a cat for something.
Oh, that's fun. And in terms of, you brought up groceries a few times. So in terms of food and your things that you need for personal care, I'm assuming those are your expenses.
Yes.
That's not something.
On the other hand, most people, like with guests, are pretty good about leaving a stack of toilet paper, for example. You wouldn't go out, and then I'll try not to do that to you when you come back either.
Right.
things like that that are in the house are ordinarily in the house. But no, it's my shampoo, it's my food, and I try to leave some things in the fridge for you to be there. Milk for your coffee and a bit of fruits and vegetables. Different people have different tastes, but you want something in the house. A loaf of bread when you get back.
Nice. So again, I think you would itemize or just be clear on what your expectations might be so that you have the right type of vegetables even in the fridge when you get home.
I learn. When I arrive, I look at what's there. And so if they're an apple person, I'll probably eat those apples. They won't last 3 months.
Right.
And then I'll put in some apples as I'm leaving. That kind of thing. I'll say, is there anything special you'd like in the fridge when you come back? And they're trying to get away, so sometimes they can answer that and sometimes they can't. But then I also sort of look around and see what it looks like they probably do need.
Right. So being really observant, if you're going to be a house sitter, would be obviously an important detail.
Well, yes, because how else are you going to have clean windows on the front door for them to come home to? How do they know that it's home? Is it because it's got cobwebs? Or etc.? Yes, observance can be very helpful.
Perfect. And so if you have questions around becoming a house sitter, how would they go about figuring that out? How would somebody go about figuring it out?
Well, do you want me to give my phone number?
Sure, if you're welcome to, if you don't mind getting a whole lot of phone calls, because I don't think very many people realize that there is actually a way to, probably pay for the service. I know people recognize is out there to hire, somebody to come for a period of time every day. That's a pretty common practice. And also to have somebody move in and pay them to sit in your house, probably a little more familiar, probably not very familiar that you can actually hire a house sitter and it doesn't cost you anything. I mean, that was a bit of a shock to me when I first connected with you. So there really are 3 types, and there are advantages to each, obviously. And it's not about taking advantage of anybody. It's about supporting each other and what's going on in somebody's life.
Yeah, there's oldsters who can get away only with their limited income if I will feed their fish, look after their plants, and not charge them. So even if you do charge, as you know, sometimes you don't charge.
Right, for different things.
For different people, different
exactly.
things.
So are you comfortable letting people give you a call and pick your intelligence around this whole topic?
My cell phone number is a Montreal one at this time, 514-718-4438.
Want to say it again?
514-718-4438.
Perfect. And then another amazing resource is, in fact, websites, right? You can Google, and locally, even in Kijiji, used Ottawa, you'll sometimes see a house sitter promote themselves there. The local bulletin boards is another spot people will promote themselves or state that they're looking for. The community newsletter that we do is also an opportunity. It goes to about 20,000 homes now, or 20,000 families. And so that's another opportunity of where you can promote for one, or if you are one and you're looking for jobs. Word of mouth probably brings the greatest peace of mind.
And you've said you get calls about people looking for house sitters.
Lots of our clients for various reasons. Yeah.
So do you want to give your phone number?
Oh, well, we all know how to reach Yetta, don't we? It's 860-4663, and the area code is 613 because it's an Ottawa area. So 613-860-4663. Or, of course, you know the drill. Just send us an email at info@dekkerteam.com, and we would love to give any insight or even connect one party with another, because that is something we have been able to do in the past from time to time, where we have people maybe between a house where they'd be comfortable house sitting, or somebody whose house is vacant that needs somebody to go in, and maybe we know a young person that's going to college or university and would like a space close there, and it just lines up. So there are so many different reasons and ways to make the connection. So certainly we would love to be involved in making that connection if possible. And then I think just Google in general in your area, there's so many different ways to find great resources today. And then get references. I think that's one of the big things I heard you say is if you don't know them. So word of mouth is best. Word of mouth is king in everything. I mean, even with our clients, most of you have come to us through another client because you can trust your friend because your friend wants something great to happen for you. And it's the same thing with house sitting. So that's king. And if you don't know anybody word of mouth, then certainly the websites and the bulletin boards in the post offices and the general stores in the different smaller villages in particular, that works really well.
Yes, and I do have the odd name and phone number that I might be able to pass on.
Right, because you know, once you're in that world, you start connecting with other people that live that similar lifestyle.
And we've had occasions where one of us was booked for that 2-week period when they were available, and then they were, but that's only because I turned it down. I was already booked. And then somebody else for another piece of that house sit because that one was already booked beyond. So trying to stagger your appointments intelligently for all concerned.
Yeah, so that's wonderful. So Elizabeth will be a great resource. And of course, we don't want to miss telling you about a couple of great properties. One, well, actually, both of them are in the Manotick Station area. Both actually amazing value for different reasons. One is on about 3 acres, only $319,000. Great bungalow, double car garage, lots of space inside and outside on the most picturesque tree-lined street. It's just right off a main road, and yet it's in the middle of nowhere and in the middle of everything, really. Close to Manotick and close to the village and close to the city. And then another one that
And that one was costing?
$319,000.
A bargain.
I know. There you go. And then another one that has an amazing shop just around the corner. These are both in Manotick Station area, which is listed available for $400,000. And it has another fabulous one. It's got a complete functional detached workshop garage, really. It's a large building, lots of storage room in there, and opportunity really to run a home-based business. And that one has a bonus, an additional bonus, which is solar panels and the income from solar panels on the roof. So some great unique properties that offer a whole lot of value. So if you're interested in those or any others, you do know how to reach us. So we're going to encourage you to do that at 613-860-4663. And if you're looking, again, I'm going to put the call out there. If you have an idea of a show that you have not heard, or even one you've heard and you think we could do it from a different perspective, a different angle, because what I've learned after recording almost 250 Inside Track on real estate shows is that even the same topic addressed with different people is a totally different experience for those that are listening. So if you would like to be a guest, give us a call and we would love to have that conversation with you and decide if it's a perfect fit. So have an amazing day, and thank you, Elizabeth.
Thank you for having me.
You're welcome. What a great informative show on house sitting and how to get away on your vacation and still have your house